Welcome to Rewrite the Mother Code, a podcast that ignites and celebrates your inner mothering essence, equipping you with the tools to live your dream life. I'm Dr. Gertrude Lyons, an author, coach, educator, and a blend of research, scholar, and mystical medicine woman. Join me in exploring holistic women's development, parenting, self-love, relationship fulfillment, and so much more. Let's delve into the depths of our inner mothers to reawaken our greatest selves and live our juiciest lives. In this podcast, we'll have conversations about mothering and motherhood that are real and raw and unlike any other. Through interviews with inspiring guests, live coaching sessions, and reflections on my own journey, Rewrite the Mother Code invites you to explore what it would feel like to stop living by limiting cultural and generational norms and start living and loving a more intentional life that you designed.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Rewrite the Mother Code with me, your host, Dr. Gertrude Lyons. Well, I am pretty excited about today's episode and the guest for this episode. It's me. So silly. But anyway, I have not done a solo podcast in quite some time. I don't know what that's about. We don't need to get into it. But I'm sure there's something there because there always is about why I haven't recorded solo in so long. So much has been going on in the last 3 months, and I'd love to catch you up on all of it. But hopefully you've been following along. I have been sharing some on social media, some in my Substack, a lot revolving around Ireland retreat, upcoming, and what's happening as I get to know and immerse myself in Malta, which is where I'm recording from right now. Yes, I have been here for the last week and a half because I just attended, I want to make sure I underline that, attended a retreat here in Malta, actually on Gozo Island, which is part of the Maltese Islands, so to speak. And gosh, the more I get to know this place and the more she reveals herself to me, I'm falling in love. Yeah. As I said, I think in my Substack, it wasn't an immediate, like, oh my God, it wasn't an immediate love. It wasn't love at first sight, put it that way. This has been a growing, evolving relationship for sure, which I love, right? I love it. I love that it wasn't just so easy, I guess. But each time I discover a new aspect, I'm pretty blown away. And I'm going to try and put some of it in words because some of it will be related. What I want to share about today is what I learned kind of for myself, but hopefully you all can co-voyage with me on a couple levels. So I want to share some about the retreat I just attended. It's called, called the Samudra Retreat. It is led by a beautiful group of people on Gozo Island. And I found it as I was searching for well-being, healing type modalities that are available here on Malta and Gozo. And they don't immediately pop out at you. This is not a Sedona, or Glastonbury, where it's just so like right there, clearly evident. This is a power center. This is an energy center. This is a place of deep prehistoric temples and even, way, if we want to really get into it, like other places, crossing of energy lines and ley lines. And wow, the more I discover, it's like amazing. What is very evident here is a deep Catholic faith. And at first I was like, wow, like, is that restricting? What do I think about that? Because these islands are covered in churches. There's more churches than actual towns. And there's a lot of small towns. I think that someone said, we have to imagine this area probably covers, I knew this, but say, for example, I don't think I'm too far off if I say that it's definitely no bigger, maybe smaller than North Carolina in the United States. And there's over 350 churches. And it's so beautiful in the summertime here. Every church has a festival, like for the saint that it's dedicated to, or the time of year and when it falls. And we're talking festivals, fireworks. Fireworks are going off practically 24/7 here. It's a way I see it as igniting the energy of who they're honoring and the spirit of what they're honoring. And I've really come to see that, like, the force on this island of however this works for you, spiritual energy, just earth energy, I relate to it very much as divine feminine, goddess energy, basically from what we know from its roots. I think there's historical validity in that, but it's just the feeling I get. And I will always say this is, personal. No matter what you read, no matter what you hear other people say, your relationship to spirit, to a place, to earth, to your human existence is yours, and yours to create, yours alone. I hope in sharing mine and my journey and adventure that it ignites your curiosity. It allows you to explore your own beliefs, faith, connection to higher power or not, to any and every way is welcome. I always want to make sure that it's clear that I'm not preaching a certain belief. It's my own. And I think it's valuable when we listen to and hear people's approaches to feeling connected to spirit or connected to the energies that are around us. So that being said, let's dive in a little bit more. And yes, my intention in this, as I said, is to share what it's like as me as a participant on a training. But also, like, when you attend retreats, when you put yourself kind of in a little bit more intensive environment, whether it's a whole retreat, whether it's a day, whether it's a session that you have with a coach, a therapist, a massage, an energy healing, that, what's possible in those. And I guess I'll start with that with an intention, right? Coming into a space with some level of intention, I know for me, and it proved to be my experience, again, on this one, is having an intention allowed, it's kind of as the week went on, I felt like this was designed just for me. I'm like, I don't know, I hope other people are having a good experience or getting what they intended, because I feel kind of selfishly like, oh, how do they plan this exactly for what I needed? And sometimes that what I needed comes in ways that I might not necessarily have envisioned or wanted, but when I could always relate it back to my intention, there was, everything was a gift, because there were some messy parts, and I'll get to that. There were some uncomfortable places for sure. But when you're going into a space of healing and growth with intention, there better be something, uncomfortable. I don't mean that quite so emphatically, like it could feel just lovely and not have a rupture or something like, will kind of shake you up. So I guess I kind of take that back, because I also believe that with that intention, things are working internally and somewhat unconsciously, even when we're not fully aware. So 100% I believe that also. Like, I don't have to understand it all or have some clear connection or clear message. And I think, let me underline that even more, that I think this is an important part, particularly around healing. is coming in intending for the healing, like I said, and trusting a process. I think one of the things, and when they asked in the survey, what is one, like how do you come away with like one major takeaway? But one, if I had to sum it up in just a few words, was I create my life. I am the owner of my life and my experience. And I say that to people, I know it in my, in my logical, studied academic, like this is, this philosophical way I want to approach life is that by me claiming my full responsibility for my experience, oh my gosh, like, yes, yes, and yes, to that, because, and I want to, this came up for me when I had a trigger or a breach, and, just the way things line up, oh my gosh, I don't know how to put this in a like really concrete linear way, so let me say this now, so then I can ramble a little bit, but just so you understand, like I also, with intention, and I've been living more intentionally and living more, practicing on a daily basis, opening myself to guidance from spirit, from ancestors, from guides, and gosh darn it, if it doesn't work, because it does. And I have had so many more moments in general in my life where it's like, oh, okay, thank you. I see how that was now connected to this, and I feel like I'm being so held, and it's really, really beautiful. And I think that immersing yourself in an environment that then kind of ignites and accentuates that. Like it wasn't that how things were on the retreat were so drastically different from my life in general. And I felt that when I left, where it's like, okay, like carry on, right? And not expect it to be quite that intense, but to still put myself in a more intense environment like that it's golden, right? And so let me name like a couple of my intentions that I went in with. One was rest. One was giving myself what I have been giving through my retreats and through my coaching since I started my business, and since I left the organization that I had been with. But I've been so nourished, right? So nourished by what I've been creating, and the book and the retreats and this podcast, and all of it feels so nourishing. I never feel like I haven't had this sense like, oh my God, I'm crashing out, or I'm just, now that being said, I've had a couple illnesses come up where I'm like, okay, maybe these are signs. Like I had shingles in June. I didn't have the explosive situation that's happening in the US with intestinal issues at the moment, but I had something somewhat close to that. So I also felt like my body was starting to give me signals like, you really need to take some complete time away and rest and immersion. This is what you're asking of the women that come on your retreats. So I know when you're the facilitator and delivering a retreat, even though I put myself in it and I, co-voyage with everybody and I'm, a participant leader, it's not the same. I'm still holding all the logistics. I'm still, tending to the whole space and everybody else. And so that was one of my big intentions. And that was hard. It was challenging to fully surrender, fully give myself over to sleep when I want to sleep. It's okay not to be on this retreat thinking about how it's going to relate to my retreats and put myself in the future. Like it was a big practice of staying in the moment and in the moment for myself. Did I do it perfectly? No, not at all. But did I give myself a lot of compassion for a couple of the days through the week where I slept a lot? Like I have it, we had different, as they call them, therapies, an energy healing, a massage, tarot reading, and then group, those were all individual, and then group things, like waking up at, sunrise for sunrise yoga and a swim in the Mediterranean. Oh my God, so beautiful. And then, gatherings and sharings and sound healings and cacao ceremonies. And so it sounds like a lot, but everything was very well paced and spread out. So there were on each day a pretty very nice stretch of time that was yours to create however you wanted. And some of the days that meant taking myself down to the water again, and which, as I say that sounds like an easy effort, but the choice to go for a swim or to take yourself to ocean meant a pretty steep climb back up a hill, because from where we were, you had to descend down to sea level, and not for the faint of heart. So that was a decision. But to have compassion for myself, that sometimes I took a nap. I have like 3 different naps in a day. And that was after sleeping a good decent amount in the night, and just saying, wow, okay, sweetie, like you need this. It's okay. And talking to the facilitators like, yep, it's all good. And letting things process and simmer. So it wasn't just like go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, and without having time to integrate these deep healings that were going on. So that was really big. And so that was one of the intentions. And then another was just opening myself up to messages, guidance, where am I going? Like, is it okay where I sit right now? Where I'm not like full on, with full intensity in my business. And is this process, and that was revealed incredibly beautiful in my tarot reading. Like, yep, yes, it is. This is not a high productivity time for me. This is a time for exactly what I was doing: rest, integration, building, but slowly, and allowing and receiving. All of those were messages that I received. I also went in with an intention, and this was based on, thank you, Laura Byrne, for a reading I did a couple weeks before the an intuitive session, where we talked about, actually, I think it was also with Nicole Bigley. I think it came up in different ways with the two of them. Beautiful souls. Highly recommend them as guides if you so choose. But in both of them, talking about like who my guides are, right? And I have a sense, and I've had senses of connecting. I've always felt a strong connection to Mary. Now I think it's kind of both Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, to Kali, to my grandmother. So it isn't like that's a new concept, but when I was explicitly asked, who your team is, who is, and I kind of believe like everyone, I could call on anyone, whether I knew them personally or not, as ancestors or, that are not of this world right now. I believe that, and that's a thank you to Perdita Finn for creating that capacity and working on and building that capacity. So to then have, but to go in with a little bit to more of that intention, like, I want to find out who my spirit team is. And on the first morning when we got up and went down, made our trek down and silently, and then did yoga by the seaside, and then went in the water. And something that's just so beautiful and I love about the Mediterranean is it's the high salt content of the water provides just beautiful buoyancy. Like you can just hang out in that water and not feel like, oh my God, I gotta work so hard to tread water or have fins on or something. You can just kind of bob around almost as if you had a floaty on you. And I'm one of those people that can float, right? So I allowed myself to just float on the water. And in that floating, it was such a, how do you describe it? Like kind of beyond imagination, like a spirit connection, so to speak, where I remembered and reunited with a spirit guide that had been brought to my attention, kind of named for me when I was on a pilgrimage in Thailand. And we did a couple evening ceremonies with a woman who channeled, and this would happen for her at night. And in that channeling, she kind of, what came through for her was for everybody on the retreat, like and they use the word deva. We might say guardian angel, we're spirit guide, but a guardian angel, deva. And mine had been, she's not like a goddess or like a, I'm like thinking of like Kali or someone like that you might almost think mythological, like she was a person of significance in the Thai culture, and her name is Jamatavi. And then she, at the end, gave everybody a token, like whether it was a statue or a photograph. And I have this photograph, and there isn't much research. I couldn't find much on her other than she was someone who brought needed love and peace and support in a community at a time that it was needed. And she's always like all in gold. So I've always had this kind of attraction to her. But in while I was floating on the Mediterranean, I had this bam, like there she was, and it was like meeting like a long lost friend that I hadn't seen for years, and like sisters or close friend. And in the scenario that kind of like came through, we were just like jumping for joy. And I'm like so not a meeting for the first time, but a reunion, and it was so moving and so real and explicit that I kind of felt like that day. And this was the first full day. It's like wow, like just having received this, and then later one of the facilitators, Mila, said, have you asked her? It sounds like she has messages for you. So. It'll take forever if I go into detail on everything that came through for me this week, but I kind of want to get some highlights. But it was really beautiful, both the conversation, but I would say even mainly the visuals that I had with her. And then that became kind of a theme for the week of picturing my guides whenever I was in, particularly like with a group or in a ceremony or in something like that, to ask for them their guidance and to be there, and also for protection and support, and call them in, and then like practice having openings and completions. Not that I don't believe that they're kind of always there and always around, but giving particular intention and focus of knowing that they're there. And I felt it during the week, but I've really felt it also since returning, just the sense that of how much we are all connected and not alone. It doesn't mean that I don't yearn for human to human contact and can feel some loneliness. Like I've been separate. Rich and I have been separate since I came here, and we're going to be separate for a whole other week. So it'll be close to 3 weeks, which is up there with the longest like times we've been apart. So I miss human connection with him, and feel alone or lonely at times, but not at that like depth or level that I maybe have in the past, because I know I'm surrounded, and I know that I'm never alone. And that was a really beautiful thing to take away for this week as well. So maybe like I'm gonna say this, but the last kind of big thing I want to bring to focus on here, because there's a lot, as I said, I could share and gleanings and glimmers, but hopefully you're getting that essence and the spirit of like what it means to kind of immerse and be aware and awake. Because once I was started in on that mode, like I just had to tune in and put even just a little bit of attention to like what, and be present in the moment for some pretty significant revelations that came through. That I felt very deeply. But I want to share about the unexpected gift and revelation that came on this retreat that would definitely not have been in my like, this is the ideal way I like to learn lessons. Okay, so enough of that lead up. What I'm talking about is having, because when I said this at the beginning, it's something that was uncomfortable, and I didn't really like, I kind of knew it would be, but I didn't realize it until I was sitting in it, which is, because a lot of the work I've been doing has been either I'm delivering it or it's been solo work, with a coach, with a healer, with someone one-on-one, and I have not put myself into a group setting. And that's I think for good healing and tending to myself reasons, but I trusted, and I do believe I was ready for it this time. But when I first sat in these circles, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Like, I don't want to be here with these people. Nothing against the people, because truly it was a great, wonderful group of people, and I had a lot of loving thoughts toward them. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, I don't want to share myself. Like, I feel uncomfortable. I'm worried what they're going to think of me if I both like say, oh, what I do for a living. Then I feel like there's this expectation. Oh, you're a coach. Oh, you're a retreat leader. Like, you should handle. You shouldn't. And so the thought of like ever getting messy or like was very much on my mind. But I was moving through that, and always kind of making choices. Like, when did I want to, kind of be with people? When didn't I? Other than the times that were specifically designated. So everything kind of happened in and around the setup that they have right there. We didn't. This wasn't a traveling trip. So put it that way. Everything was pretty contained in this town and the surrounding area. But one morning, we was set up, so we got up early and got in, taxi and transportation to go see another part of the island for a little like getaway. And when we got there, the facilitator that was kind of with us and guiding us, it was beautiful, scenic. Oh my gosh, the nature at some parts of this island is so incredible by the sea. So anyway, he showed us around a little bit, and then we had a designated amount of time. He said, we really need to, leave by a certain time. And as a facilitator, I'm like, I know how there's always some flexibility, but for the most part, like, it's important to honor the timetable, and it's very stressful for me when we don't. So there were a few people, but particularly, on this retreat that just wasn't their thing in general. But it didn't usually matter, because if they showed up late to a meal, if they showed up, or didn't participate in something, it didn't impact me, and I could kind of like, whatever, understand it. But here, oh my gosh, bottom line is I got hugely triggered, because when at the designated time that, was set to work out, there was a group, like a handful of people not there yet. And clearly, and one of them had gone off, even though it was time, and that person knew it was time to meet, went off. You can see I still have like feelings about it. You don't need the whole story, but there it is. So, oh my God, my heart started racing, and I knew I was in it. I knew I was triggered, but at the same time, still pretty in it, to feel victimized, to like my anxiety just like shot up. And, I like the experience I was having in that moment was like anger, disrespect, like how could they, like what's like, this just isn't okay. And it's blah, 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 on and on. And I was like, it always still, I'm good enough to know that like in the mind, it's like, okay, you're triggered. But I was having a really hard time, like coming down from it. And then just a few of us were in the car, the Nutley people. So we left, everybody eventually came, probably in total, like we left 20 minutes or a half hour later than we were supposed to. But so, I started going inside, looking at like, what this was triggering for me. And I'm like, okay, this is clearly a control issue for me. Like, I like being the one in control. I don't like when people disrupt the situation, and I don't like that. I just don't like it. And then when people are oblivious or, not even apologizing, just like, oh my God, I just did this like super fun thing. And it's like, so that all being said, I got to like simmer with it for a bit. And then the facilitator was like, well, I think this is something we should bring to the group, because, we don't like to like leave things. And I probably had was letting myself have the biggest charge. I know, but others kind of shared that they were too. And he's like, we can all talk about it. I'm like, no, not necessary. We don't need to all talk about it. I know this is a trigger for me. I will work it, and it'll be good material. So we're at breakfast, we're finishing breakfast, and he comes in and says, I think we should talk about that thing. And I was so mad. And I started shaking. He's, it just put me right in it. Like, oh my God, this is messy. I don't want to have to talk and share about this. It just let me do it alone, right? I don't want to do this. But I mustered up the courage. So after, he kind of put out like what was so about what happened, like just logistically, then I was kind of like, does anybody have, feelings about this or whatever? And silence. I'm like, all right, just do it. So I, as responsible as I could in that moment, shared how that situation, put me up against myself, and it had nothing to do with anybody personally there, and doesn't, change how I feel about anybody, because it really didn't. And I was clear in that moment, even though I was like sitting in still quite a lot of feelings. And that being said, I felt hurt. I felt, this isn't a feeling, but disrespected. I was angry. I felt like I didn't matter. My time didn't matter. Others didn't matter what mattered. And it was just really clear. It was a childhood, kind of, I'm gonna call it narcissistic mother wound, right? Of like, what about me? And sure, like, and I think it goes, even more historical than that, but if I keep it just to, my little girl and my, like, my mom's experience mattered most. And by by speaking it out loud and speaking it in the group, I was so grateful later, still in that moment, because nobody else spoke up. It was like I was the only one, which I knew wasn't true. But I'm like, oh my God, now I'm triggered because I feel like everybody's gonna hate me, they're gonna judge me, they're gonna whatever. But it was okay. Like, it was really all okay, because those feelings are valid. My feelings are valid. I could separate out my experience from, I can analyze it. I know what's going on with people, at some level. I've gotten to know them well enough to know, some of like how they're wired and, what prompts them to do what they do. And that's helpful, but it doesn't really matter. Like, again, I felt like it was something that was set up just for me. And, this gift to remember that no matter how much work I've done, no matter, what, there's never a done, and there's always some inkling of wounds that, can, even if I've worked on them and healed, they can get ruptured again. They were deep and tender. And by giving myself the time and space and opening and having a safe place to share about it, to go deeper, it then opened up space, because that afternoon I had a somatic alignment healing. And I think I went farther and deeper and as intensely as the couple times I've done plant medicine, honestly, as without any of that, journeyed and opened and received and really took myself to a very, very energetic, deep healing place. Those kind of experiences are hard to put into words, but I felt like that opening allowed, I don't know, I felt like gunk that had kind of gunked up, or I hadn't given space to open up to flow out of me. And when that flowed out, beautiful, healing, radiant energy, light could come into its place. And I felt a wholeness and a connection like I haven't in maybe ever fully, and I've never had that exact experience. So what a gift, right? And I don't know that I would have gotten there without kind of going into the deep, dark depths of some unconscious material that was playing out there. And yeah, will it come up again? Maybe, probably. I don't know. I'm not really worried about that as much as I am grateful for the space that it opened up now, and the reminder that, always being in control, or feeling like I have control, which is generally an illusion. I could later laugh like, it was 20 minutes of being late. Like, no tragedy was going to happen with us being late. It was just, and I think it's just a really cool thing to remember. So I am hoping that there are things that you can pull out of this for yourself, and whether it's with support and guidance, or whether it's with, coming on a retreat. The setup of this retreat is, it has maybe some components, but what I also loved is that there's lots of different ways to put things together, and it works, right? And it made me love and value and appreciate what I do, and love and value and appreciate what others, with a healing intention, with, that are grounded, beautiful, beings, are also bringing to the planet. And I would love everybody to do the Samudra retreat on Gozo. Like, I invite you, and there's right places and spaces for all of this work, and we all need different things at different times. This is what I needed in this moment, for sure. I also made some wonderful connections, and it was a beautiful people from all over the world, and a very international, which brought its own energy and essence, and reminder that we're really all the same. We have different beliefs, different customs, cultures, but when it comes to this kind of work, none of that matters, because what matters is, us coming together, human to human, spirit to spirit, with intentions of being there for our growth, our development, our, deeper connections, is a really, really beautiful thing. And so thank you, everyone, and that just tended to me and put their energy into tending to me and others. I'm massively grateful, and I would love to hear. It's kind of vulnerable, all alone, like, sharing an experience, and that's okay. I love this has helped me to speak out loud, and I hope the energy of what I'm putting out, and that the words make sense, so to speak, but that you can feel the sense of what this is and what my journey was, and relate to, or be curious about, or be triggered by. Woohoo! As we know, being triggered by it is just as useful as the affirmation of and affirming each other on our journeys. So it's all good. So please do reach out. I know I always say that, and I do love it when I hear from people, and it's for me, but also like sometimes just taking a moment to. And whether it's connecting directly with me, but jotting something down, seeing what, taking a breath, breathing into what you just journeyed on with me, and see where it takes you. Pretty incredible. I am planning and have been, and I'm excited for 2027 retreats, but I'm always available. Truth be told, I always have an opening for one-on-one coaching, one-on-one immersives, where we have total control of when we schedule it and where and what. And I love doing bespoke experiences for you. And I love the consistency and the drumbeat of regular coaching. So all of it has its purpose, and anywhere I can be in there and insert myself in there with you, it's always an honor and pleasure. So thank you for being with me today. And I send you just huge blessings and love and all good things. And however they can come to you, I wish it for you. All right, till next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for being with me on this episode of Rewrite the Mother Code. Dive in even deeper into the content by visiting drgertrudelyons.com. And that's DRGERTRUDELYONS.com, where you'll find comprehensive show notes, blog posts, and ways to work with me. If this episode resonated with you and you believe in the significance of this transformative work, take action now. Hit that subscribe button and share this episode with a friend who could benefit from some mother healing. Your support means the world to me, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Leave a review today. Every word fuels the strength of Rewrite the Mother Code. I personally read and respond to each review, so your feedback is invaluable in shaping the future of the show. Together, let's empower our communities and create lasting change. Until we meet again, know that I'm cheering you on every step of the way.